Well, this morning, as we have been covering the aftermath of the fatal stabbing of Iryna Zarutska on Charlotte's Blue Line on August 22nd, many people are asking how they can better protect themselves and their loved ones in public spaces. Right now, we're joined by Rob Chadwick, a former FBI supervisory special agent who headed FBI's training academy at Quantico and now the principal training advisor for the U.S. Concealed Carry Association. Rob, you bring unique insights on public safety and personal protection. Thank you for joining us here on Live Impact News this morning.
Morning, Jane. Thank you for having me.
Rob, when you heard about this tragic incident here in Charlotte, from a law enforcement perspective, what stands out to you about what happened on the transit system?
Well, it's simply heartbreaking to see. Of course, you have this young woman who fled a war-torn country looking for a better life, coming to Charlotte, assuming she was safe. And really the saddest part is so many of us have this false sense of security when we're in public. The fact of the matter is we do not know who we're sitting next to, who we're sitting in front of. And law enforcement the last several years has just been stretched to the breaking point. They cannot be everywhere at all times. Obviously, I'm a big supporter of law enforcement. Spent 30 years on the job. But any officer will tell you we cannot be there all the time, everywhere. And so, people must accept that when they're in public, they are in at least some level of exposure to danger. You don't know, you can't assume. And so you must accept that you are your own first line of defense. You must become a stakeholder in your own safety and security, and that starts with that acknowledgement that evil is out there. It can and does happen to good people every single day.
Situational awareness. Explain what you mean by that.
Well, that is it's simply very intentionally paying attention to where you are, what's happening around you, and equally as importantly, being committed to take action if you see something anomalous, something that's just not quite right. All of us have this, what we call our intuition or that gut instinct, or call it what you want. We all have this intuition that we must listen to. And intuition is nothing more than our brain's early warning detection system. All right, it is a subconscious self-preservation tool that we've all evolved with, and so many of us unfortunately just override that. Right, we plug our ears with earpods, we put our face in a bright phone, assuming that bias towards normalcy all of us have. Right, we think everything's fine. Nothing has happened before, so nothing's going to happen. That must be combated. That must be, dispelled. And when you're out in public, especially, be that person who's paying attention and, just as importantly, committed to take action in your own best interest. Even if that's just, I'm going to wait for the next train, or I'm going to move to a position where I can keep myself where no one is behind me. I will stand, or I will go down to another car, because you just don't know. You cannot trust who is ultimately just a stranger.
As we look at the case of Iryna, of course, we got to look at our own habits, our routines, whether it's the transit or a concert or the mall. And it sounds like prevention and just, my husband always tells me, keep your head on a swivel whenever I'm out going, going about my day. So looking at that, and in hindsight, of course, 2020, could have being, aware of your surroundings, choosing a different seat, looking around you, could have prevented something like this?
I want to start by saying Iryna did absolutely nothing to deserve what happened to her. As countless other victims, we could say the same thing about. But to answer your question, absolutely yes, right? It starts with understanding that there are predators out there, and that predators exploit our predilection or our conditioning to be nice, to be trusting, to be welcoming. We have to get over this, compulsion to be nice and trusting and polite. That has gone out the window, unfortunately, for a little bit of time, and you must act as your own best interest, become a stakeholder in your own safety and security. Even if that just means, I'm going to wait to put that phone down until I'm in a safe place. I'm not going to check my email. I'm not going to, because I'm in public. I don't know who's around me. I'm not required to trust who is sitting around me, and time Here's what's most important, Jane. Time is the most critical element during any emergency, all right? And if Iryna had just sat maybe across the aisle from this person, that predator would not have had that tremendous advantage of surprise. Every predator out there wants to surprise their victim. And had she been able to see at least him coming with that knife, which of course she couldn't, maybe she would have at least a fraction of a second to offer some meaningful resistance, whether it's moving away or whatever that is. Put yourself in a position to take the most advantage of that, right? Buy yourself those few precious seconds to react and do something, even if it's just run away.
How can people stay alert, Rob, without, going into that paranoid or constantly fearful mode?
It's a discipline, Jane. It takes work. It is conscious work. No one can be on red alert all the time. It's exhausting, and you shouldn't be. But knowing the difference between, when you're at home and the door is locked and maybe there's something, maybe your dog is on watch, you can let yourself relax a little bit. And every one of us needs that. But when you're out in public, even when you're at church, right, unless you have a dedicated security team that is looking out for you, you have to be paying attention to what's going on. When you're at a movie theater, you can't completely relax. Understand that anytime you're in public, you're in danger. That is just a fact, all right? The other thing is this: what is predictable is exploitable. So if I knew, I'll take the gas station, for example, right? I could predict with absolute certainty, if I were a predator, with absolute certainty, where a procession of potential victims would be standing all day long, over and over and over again, with money in their hand, probably their face in their cell phone, and a means to escape. And it's right by a gas pump. So think of it that way, right? Think of it as easily exploitable because it's predictable. That's when you have to be most on your guard.
All right. If you do find yourself in a dangerous situation, what immediate response, what should your priority be?
Your priority should be time and distance. Always remember time and distance, and hopefully barricades, whether it's a bollard, anything that can put time and distance between you and whatever that developing trouble is, okay? It could be nothing. Empower yourself to act anyway. If you acted on something that turned out to be nothing, so what? But if you acted on something and it developed into something dangerous, you have now stolen back the two most precious elements, time and distance, to allow yourself to react, formulate, to offer some meaningful resistance, some meaningful action that is going to allow you to continue on with your day and return home to your loved ones.
Let's talk about an exit strategy. It sounds like that's part of it, but when you go into any kind of public space, is to look for the closest exit.
Always. I'll share a tip. Whenever I go into a restaurant, and this drives my wife crazy, right? But I always walk in. The first thing I do, no matter the type of restaurant it is, I make a circuitous route to find the restroom. Now, it's good practice to wash your hands, but that is also cover for me checking out not only where the exits are, primary, secondary, tertiary if need be, but who's in that restaurant. What's going on? What are the demeanors happening? Where is the table that I want to sit at? And I am willing to wait for that table, right? So I'm just getting a lay of the land. I'm committing that to my memory on the very, very outside chance that something does develop. And I'm also committed to take action. If something starts developing in that restaurant, my loved ones and I are gone by the fastest route possible, because it's not my business to try to wait and see or solve the problem. It doesn't involve me. I just want to go home and get on with the rest of my life.
All right, so you work now with everyday people protecting themselves. What's the most important lesson that you try to teach them?
The most important lesson is acceptance, right? Acceptance that this can and does happen all the time, every day. Law enforcement in the United States has changed dramatically over the last 5 years. All of us must understand, law enforcement agencies are on average down 25 to 30% staffing wise. They can barely man the streets. And so response times in the last 5 years have doubled. When you pick up the phone and call 911, it takes twice as long on average in the United States for that first policeman or policewoman to get there. So you must understand, I am on my own for longer than I think, and I have to come up with a plan, even if that plan is just run away, put time and distance, arm myself with something. It doesn't have to be a gun, but that arming yourself with the foreknowledge and a plan and a commitment to action, that is the most paramount thing I could tell anybody.
And as a bystander, we saw on some of the footage there with Iryna, you feel helpless. You don't know what to do. Do I run? Do I help out Iryna? What's the mindset? What do you tell people is the best thing to do to be a first responder or be your own first responder?
So all of us as human beings, it's incumbent upon us to understand what's important to keep either ourselves or a loved one alive in a critical situation. And don't invest in a stranger. Invest in yourself, invest in a loved one. You could have an accident in your home tonight where someone is cut badly, or you could be involved in an accident and someone is bleeding badly. Invest some time, find out right now, today, sign up for a class. It's one of the reasons I joined the USCCA myself. We offer medical training on how to keep people alive long enough for definitive help to get there, for a paramedic to show up that can do things, right? But there are things that just a normal human can do, an everyday person without any real training, that will buy people that time, right? Understanding what's important now, that WIN acronym, WIN, what's important now. Go to a class, invest in yourself, invest in your family. Maybe you have a little first aid kit that you throw in your bag that you maybe have in your car or in your go bag, whatever it is you do. But understanding how to staunch blood flow, how to keep someone's air supply open just for a little bit of time, right? That could make all the difference. I was so proud to see at least one bystander on that train try to offer some sort of meaningful intervention to buy Iryna time. Now, unfortunately, it didn't work. But had some of the other bystanders gotten involved maybe a little bit earlier, we could be having an entirely different discussion right now, and that young lady might have survived. But think about this. If it's your loved one that's in that position, you don't want to think, man, I should have gone to that training, a couple weeks ago. The USCCA has a website, uscca.com. All you got to do is enter your zip code, and it will spit out a list of, almost an unending list of classes, most of which are free. That's why I'm so proud of what I do now. It's incumbent for people to understand you must get involved and become a stakeholder.
Love it, Rob. Great conversation, great advice. Want to let your resource again, uscca.com?
.com. That's it. Just start there. And like I said, there are plenty of other resources out there too. I love what we do. We have just almost endless amounts of training and instructors all over the country. We have over 8,000 instructors in every corner of the country. So seek out some kind of training. Understand this could happen to you, and the worst feeling in the world, as you described, Jane, is not knowing what to do. And there's no excuse for that. You can do it yourself. Empower yourself. Start today.
Rob Chadwick, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Really great discussion you had there with safety and what we can do. Like you said, empower ourselves. Thank you.